Welcome to Living, Learning, and Leading with Purpose with me, Dr. Wajida Small. This channel is for those who want to live fulfilled lives, grow personally and professionally, and develop into influential and impactful leaders in their organizations, industries, and communities. Through my blog, podcast, and books, I share the best stories, lessons learned, and advice to help you live, learn, and lead with purpose. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Leading with Purpose podcast. I am so grateful for all of you for your continued support, for listening, for downloading, for those of you watching. So glad that you are supporting and watching our conversations here on YouTube. And of course, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. I am really excited about today's episode because we have a special guest. We will be talking with Shante Generally. She is the host of Authentic Talks, and we're going to be talking about the importance of positive self-talk. A couple of months ago, I was on Shantae's podcast, and we had the most amazing conversation about just leadership and supporting one another. And it really was a great episode. So if you haven't, I'm actually going to link our episode below and in the show notes so that you can listen to the conversation that we had. But I am really excited to speak to her. I came across a post on her Instagram, and it was a post on little affirmations that you can say to yourself. But as I read them, I realized that they weren't little at all. They created such a huge impact, at least for me, and the day that I was having and reading them. And it helped me realize the importance of positive self-talk, because it really was, I can just say this small sentence and it could change my day, my week, my month, just my outlook on a lot of things in an instant. So I am really excited for you all to join us in this conversation. Let's get started. So as I said, I am super excited to have Shante, and here she is. Thank you so much, Shante, for joining us today. I like to start, especially when I have guests. So I read your, talked about you a little, how we were introduced, told folks a little about you in the beginning, but that's a very small piece of who you are. And that's just me reading things, talking about just what I know about the individual. So I'd like for us to start by you sharing with us your story. And your story can be the story or a story, but we want to know about you.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I am honored, and I absolutely love what you're doing. Your book, like Leading with Purpose, it's like good stuff. So keep doing what you're doing, and congratulations. And
thank you.
As far as me, you guys, my name is Shante, and Shante Generally, and I am a life coach. I am someone who enjoys helping people, and I also host a podcast as well. How I got to this place of wanting to help other people was because I went through so many different challenges in my life that led me to feeling depressed, feeling as if I was like not enough. And if you guys go back and watch this video, you could see where I had gained so much weight. I was like 267 pounds at the time. And it made me feel even more like ridiculous. Like I felt like I was just, like out of shape, embarrassed. I had all of these feelings, and it was me. It was me beating myself up like every single day. And so as a result of going through all of these things, I ended up just telling myself how ridiculous I was, how I wasn't enough, and how I could not do the things that I really wanted to do because I didn't look a certain way. I didn't sound a certain way. I couldn't stand the way I sound. You guys, I was like the worst person, beating myself up. And then I realized that I was like my worst enemy. I really was, because I was always in my head. And so I got to this place. I don't know how I got there. I stumbled upon this YouTube video somehow, and it was like an inspirational type video. And it made me feel just a little bit good, where that day I thought, oh, wow, that was good. And I wanted to watch more of it. And I ended up that entire day binging, watching one video after another. And then I thought, this is ridiculous. I'm literally like beating myself up more than anybody else could ever do on the outside. And it was about me not accomplishing certain things in my life, not doing what I said I was going to do, breaking promises to myself, not eating healthy. It was a combination of things. So to tell my story, we could be here all day, but that was the main thing, was me inside of myself being my worst enemy, and just beating myself up with like how I thought about me. I could look in the mirror, girl, and would be like, oh, look at my stomach. Look at this. Why? Look at my nose. Everything was just too much. It got to the point where I was like, I can't keep doing this. And so I started taking little tiny steps towards like making correction in how I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest just grew.
Tell us, before I ask you to tell us what some of those steps were, you are speaking truth to a lot of us, including me. And you mentioned kind of being your own worst critic. And this might have been a couple of weeks ago for me, sitting around and someone said, "You look good."
And you do. You're gorgeous.
Thank you.
You have like the best smile.
Thank you. And I said, "Really? Over COVID, I gained so much weight." And they're like, "Well, I can't see where it is." And I said, "Well, it's here and it's here and it's here and it's here. And I did this and I didn't do this and I didn't do this." And it's kind of, they actually complimented me. And there I was, after I had gotten a compliment, essentially was telling myself in front of people why I didn't deserve that compliment. And so what you said is very important in terms of being your own worst critic. And I think sometimes we don't realize that. So I want you to tell us kind of like the steps that you took to move away from that. But was there a specific point for you that you realized that that's what you were doing, that you were criticizing yourself and the impact that it was having on you?
Yes, I had a similar experience as you, where someone in one particular week, I feel like I had gotten about 10 compliments. And it ranged from like, you have a nice voice, to, oh, you have pretty skin, or your teeth are amazing, different things. And each time someone said something nice to me, I was the same way, like, what? Get out of here. Oh God, please don't look. Let me not smile since she said that. I'll make sure I do not talk, but I have a podcast. But it's like, in person, it's like, I felt like it was hard for me. This is before I had my podcast, though. I felt like it was hard for me to take a compliment. And so I had that day where I was like, wow, you literally just like slapped every compliment that came your way. What is that about? And I started asking myself questions. And the final straw was when my husband came home and he says, "Hey, babe, you look really nice today." And I was like, "No, I don't." I'm like, "My stomach is bloated. Look at this. Look at," and then he just was looking at me. And then in mid-sentence, I go, and I caught it. I had that moment where I was like, "You're being so negative about you. Why can't you just say thank you?" So I said, okay, the next time someone says something to me, I'm going to say thank you. And when they did, I go, thank you. And it came out like, and then, so it's like, sometimes you'll catch yourself if there was like this awareness that just came up for me, where I literally realized that I was the most negative person that I knew in my head, but to other people, I could compliment them, be proud of them, give them a pat on the back. But with myself, the expectations of everything was just too much. So there comes that realization where you just sometimes you get tired of being that way, or being around negativity and you
Yeah.
make a decision to change it. So I heard myself, that self-awareness thing kicked in.
Yeah. And so you you caught you tell the story of your husband, and
Mm-hmm.
you caught yourself and realized that you should say thank you, and you started to practice saying thank you. And what I thought was interesting is same thing. And honestly, to be 100% honest, I'm still like, thank you. I appreciate the compliment, because it's kind of like, they're complimenting you, but you're not sure why. So then you're not sure whether or not it's actually a compliment. And it's kind of like,
You
so
know,
go ahead before I ask my question.
I was going to say, I think that that has a lot. What I had to do the work on for myself was loving me, like for real.
Mm-hmm,
Like no matter how I look, it was just me loving myself. And so that was some work because nobody ever told me about that. Had never heard about self-love, and it's something that people think that you automatically should have, that you're born with it. And I'm sure we are, but somewhere along the way we lose touch, and then
mm-hmm,
just life comparison thing and all of that. And then we get to that place where we don't feel confident,
mm-hmm,
and where when you don't have confidence, then you start to lose like the courage to do things like follow your dreams and
mm-hmm,
follow your and be walking in your purpose and in alignment. So I had everything like off balance in my life at that time. And it probably was always there for me.
mm-hmm,
But when I gained weight, it seemed like it magnified. It
mm-hmm,
magnified it more because I wasn't I was in worse shape physically as far as health wise, pre-diabetic and all of that. And so I had was carrying the weight of that, and then just hoping that like my husband really had true love for me
mm-hmm,
because at the time I felt like I didn't even love or like myself. So
mm-hmm.
you know um you just sometimes get to that place where your eyes, you start to open up and you're paying
Yeah.
attention. So
Um, you said something in terms of kind of where you were physically. And a lot of people don't realize that your physical health impacts your mental and emotional health. And when you don't feel good physically, that automatically manifests into kind of not feeling good mentally. And of course, people go through their own kind of process to get to a point where they feel healthy, and there are various definitions of healthy. Healthy is you feeling good and feeling your best, whatever that actually looks like. But specifically thinking about kind of the headspace, regardless of how we get to that headspace, I'd like for you to talk about kind of your process for getting out of it. One thing, and I mentioned this kind of in the introduction, I was on your Instagram page, and I think it might have been, I'm going to tell myself it was April or May, and you made a post, and it was just like, just little words of affirmation. And I'm going to put the term little in air quotes. Probably should not describe them as little, because what I explained in the introduction is that, little in terms of very few words. Um, but they had such a great, like, huge impact. Like these very few words, positive words, if you will, words of affirmation, words that you can say to yourself, um, that at least when I read it, and it was literally just random, it's like it completely changed my mood. And I'll say the funny thing is, I used to have, before I moved, I used to have little affirmation cards that I got from like a conference. Can't remember where, but they were like these really beautiful colors and these things. And I had them around my bathroom mirror. And I did that to remind myself that before I start my day, to say something good about myself, to carry, to remind myself, um, that
That
I
you
was,
are all those amazing things.
yes, yes.
I love affirmations. I love them. That's my thing. I have this thing. It's called Jams. Okay. So that's basically, it was a lot of work to get out of there, to get from in that headspace. And I still have to do affirmations. I still take care of myself mentally because I feel like we have beautiful magic minds. And if we take care of them, man, we could do amazing things. It's like it pushes you to a point where that's what helps us to take the steps that we need to in order for us to get to a place where we're in alignment with our life. So yes, I love the affirmations, journaling, affirmations, mindfulness, meditation, and the spirituality, having that piece in, was my crutch, my thing that helped me. And so it just was a one step at a time. It started with the way that I thought. And so it was a self-talk that initially started. And so when that thought would come in my head that was negative, I would go, nope, you are amazing. You are freaking awesome. And you do look good. It doesn't matter if you're 260 something pounds. Don't worry. We're going to get it off 1 pound at a time. Mm-hmm. And so I would go, ooh, look at that brownie. It looks so good. Then I'm like, no, you know what? Let me try the apple. But I would slap peanut butter and caramel on it because I have a sweet tooth. I like sweet things. And so it's that self-talk and being able to believe in me that I could do it. So I would literally write stuff on the board and on sticky notes and have it all around me. And it literally was like, I am abundance. I am success. It was affirmations of hope, belief, success, all of that. And so after a while, with me doing these things and saying these, talking to myself and telling myself great things like, oh, you have an amazing smile. Look at you. And then one day I did that thing where I looked in the mirror and I go, I love you. And it was the weirdest thing ever. I was cracking up and it made me feel good. After a while, I do it. I look at myself. I say, I love you. You're amazing. But at first it was so weird to do that.
I want you to talk more about that because I don't think very many of us say I love you to ourselves. And as you were just saying that, and how you walk past the mirror and say I love you, one thing that I've started doing in the morning after I get dressed, I'll stand in the mirror and be like, "Ooh, girl, you look good." I tell myself I look good.
Yes.
And for me, looking good always makes me feel good. So I make sure I make the effort to take the time to put on my makeup, do my hair. And like when I'm really feeling down, it's just kind of like, we need to look good. And I will go nowhere except from my bathroom down to the couch to sit and watch TV. But I'll look good doing it. And that makes me feel good.
Yes.
But to say, and I've honestly, I don't want to say I've never said that, but in not recalling ever having said it, I'm going to say I've never just kind of looked at myself in the mirror and was like, I love you. You're amazing. You're awesome.
At first it's weird, but then after a while, like you will just start to self-correct if you try to tell yourself anything else. And I have to say that I love what you shared about, like, when you look good, you feel good. And that's true. That was another thing that I did. I started trying to fix myself up a little bit, even if it was like, because I don't grow eyebrows. So I would try to draw them on, and just little things like that. And it does make you feel good. And then that way you walk by and you're like, oh, I look nice. I look cute today. And then it's like, I love you, girl. Having self-compassion. We got to have compassion for ourselves, ladies, because without that, we're going to beat ourselves up. We need that element because there's that fine line of like where you're telling yourself the truth. Like, okay, this is ridiculous. I know I need to be more, have better time management, or I need to have this or that. You got to critique yourself so you can do better in the areas that you want. but not to the point where there's no self-compassion. So if you
Yeah.
didn't get a chance to record a podcast maybe, or to do something you wanted to do, but it's because you're working on 10 different things, there's that compassion. Don't beat yourself up like, I am not good at this, maybe I should quit. No, don't give up. Just try to clear some things, other things maybe off your plate. Do a prioritize those things, like
Yeah.
in the order of importance for you. And
Mm-hmm.
so I love that self-care is huge in that. I would say it has everything to do with self.
Yeah.
And self is big, it's gigantic, because that could be like self-worth, self-belief,
Mm-hmm.
self-compassion, self-love, all of that. But for me, it starts, I love the mind. So I love working with people to help them to get into the correct mindset and
Mm-hmm.
to erase the limiting beliefs. Because as we start digging, we see that a lot of this is like programmed in us from the time we were young, and we wavered back and forth with that
Mm-hmm.
confidence and with
Mm-hmm.
that abuse, that mental self-talk abuse,
Yeah.
self-sabotage is what we call it, you know. And so once we realize that we have that, it's so important for us to be our best friend.
Absolutely. And one thing that I think is important about self-talk is the actual talk piece, right? So you talked about like having affirmations in different areas, and I have affirmations here at my desk, my work desk, and when I'm working from home, and I have affirmations at work. Like I have a little deck of cards, and every now and again I'll switch it out. But the one that has always been constant, especially here um, on my desk, right above my ring light, where my work computer is, it says, I love and accept myself.
Ooh, I love it.
But the thing about it is that as you were talking, I realized I read that all the time in my mind, in my head. I read it, but I don't say it out loud. And
Mm-hmm.
there's something different. Like when you say it out loud, and when I say it out loud, I mean literally say it, whether you write it down, you're putting it out there in the
Yes.
universe, because when you read it, it's kind of like, okay, change something in my mind, but it's just stuck in this space.
Yes.
And talking, self-talk, saying it out loud, I think allows it to manifest in a very different way. So like you said,
Mm-hmm.
you tell yourself in the mirror, I love you. um I think, I guess, how do we get to a point of being comfortable with saying these things out loud and really not caring where we say it? Because sometimes this is a good reminder, because I'll be on a call and all kinds of things are happening, and it's just kind of like, I love and accept myself, and myself in every aspect of who I am. Because and I'm going to ask you about your podcast in a minute, but it's it's loving your authentic self, loving just everything about you, including the things that you think are wrong, um, and being able to express that love for yourself openly,
Mm-hmm.
um, whether it's to you, to someone else. I've gotten very comfortable talking to myself in public. Because
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. You got to do what you got to do. You know what I mean? Take care of you. And at the end of the day, we do have to be our friends. We have
Mhm,
to be friends with ourselves.
mhm,
And I always say, treat yourself the way you would treat your best friend. If your best friend was going through something, what type of things would you say to her or him? You would
yeah,
never say all of the things that we would say to ourselves. And so if we operate in that way, and we vibrate on a frequency. And so the vibration that we're giving out, it's either going to be positive or negative.
mhm,
And so if you think about that, it's important for us to be on the positive side more frequently, because this is how we manifest things. This is how we accomplish our goals. This is
mhm,
how we become successful in life, and we can reach back and help other people or either help them along the way, however we want to phrase that, but it's important for us to definitely inside start with us, and even if you don't believe it, say it anyway. After a
Mhm.
while it'll just become like second nature, and then feel it when you say it, because it's one thing that, because I can go, I love myself, or I can say, I love
Mhm.
myself,
Yes,
I
that
love
matters.
you. Yeah.
Hmm.
So you don't want to be like, just like saying it just because, like, well, I got to say this affirmation. All right. I'm
Hmm.
amazing. I'm a magnificent being. All things come to me that are amazing and meant for me. No, say
Yeah.
it like you mean it and feel it. And like, and then journaling is amazing. Write them out, and it's okay. Whoever you're around, either they're going to accept you for the amazing person that you are and who you're becoming, or they'll get out of the way. Something will happen where they'll move. They'll
Hmm.
get out of the way. They won't be around anymore. So it's important to have that positive environment also. And we always catch ourselves. There's a lot of low vibration things that we can participate in, and we're not perfect. We're human.
Hmm.
We're human. We live in this world with everybody else. So of course we can get caught up in the gossip or the anything that's happening, the news, and it can lower our frequency, make us get on a vibration that is negative. And when we're vibing like that, that's when that self-talk has an opportunity to come in there at some point and creep back in. So we just have to be on guard. You're not walking around like, okay, I can't think about this, I can't think about that, I can't think, you can think, allow the thoughts to flow and see what's coming up for you. If
Hmm.
it's things like about you, or like a dream or a goal that you have, but you're not in support of you, we have to change that. We have to change it, because you have to support you and be the person who says, you know what, I could do this, I can learn it, I can take the right steps. We got to
Hmm.
encourage ourselves. But you know what happens? We expect other people to do it, and then we get frustrated when they don't show up how we think they should, but we're not showing up for ourselves.
And I was just going to say that goes back to showing up for yourself like you would show up for anyone else. And we literally are out here supporting everyone. Oh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And then when it comes to us, it's kind of like, I don't know if I can do that.
Right.
But you just did it for like 50,000 other people.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure this is going to work. But you actually helped make it work for all of these other people.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about journaling, and I used to have a journal way back when, long, long, long time ago.
Were you like in
And
your teenage years?
more like my preteen years.
Right on. I find that
Um,
some people do say that.
and for me though, I guess my expression was more of writing poetry. Um, but I've always read about and heard about the importance of journaling. And just in general, I am very well aware of writing it down, because when you write it down, you're putting it out there, you're making it real. It's not stuck in your head. But I've had, I don't know, like I've just not been able to get into that type of space. What has been some of your um motivations to, because you mentioned like journaling and the affirmations and meditation. um I've meditated a handful of times. Only one time I reached that point where I was just full, like, and it scared the dickens out of me, because I'm one of those people, it's so very difficult to turn off my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And that one time I turned it off. And it was the most amazing and the most scariest thing ever. And my motivation at that time was, I was staying with a friend, she was working. It was kind of like, all right, let me see what this meditation thing is about. And I was in a quiet space, and it was just kind of like, it was full zen. But how do you, Shante, stay motivated to be consistent and doing these things to maintain your level of positivity, for
Well,
lack of a better term, to just kind of stay in a very positive space or prevent yourself from kind of regressing back into the negative space it took time for you to get out of?
I was not comfortable in that space. It wasn't my comfort zone. And so because it wasn't the place that I was comfortable, because some people I feel like we can get comfortable in that space and just don't even realize that we're that way. And so it basically, the way that I stay motivated is that I don't ever want to go back there again.
Mm-hmm.
It's enough for me. I had some experiences that I didn't like, and I don't want to. You got to want it bad enough. And it's not always easy, but we have to be able to do the work. And the way that we do the work is we have to figure out, either through friends or a coach, therapist, whatever it is, whatever level you're on, what is it that's going to work for me? So when you mentioned that for you, the journaling was something that you had did like a long time ago, and it's something that you're not finding that it's something that you're able to get into, that is absolutely okay. But what we have to do is find something that works for you. So if journaling doesn't work, maybe you could try recording yourself, your own voice, giving yourself some positive reinforcement,
Mm.
something, and you wake up to you every day. The first thing that we do is we grab our phones and we go to social media, and then we turn something on like the news, or we turn something else on. It's like, start the day off with you, complimenting you, giving yourself an affirmation for the day, and then it starts the night before. You sit down, make that recording, make it like where it's only 15 seconds, 30 seconds long, or even a minute. And we have to be willing to step out of our comfort zone. So if we want to have change to happen in our life, we can't keep doing the same thing
Mm-hmm.
that we've been doing. So it's like finding what works for you. So if that's not the journaling, some people do like walking meditations where they walk and they'll listen to like positive affirmations and they're walking quick. Some people do exercise. Some people, like in a gym, other people will like they write a book. We get that stuff out that's good to help people the way that it's supposed to be. And then we get the stuff out that's bad the way it's supposed to be. So that could be
Mm-hmm.
that you might be a person who's vocal, where you want to talk to somebody about it, or you might just have a friend, yeah, where you go, hey, you know what, I'm so frustrated about this. But one
Yeah.
of the things I do when I journal is I have a journal that's for positivity, but then I just rip out a piece of paper for the negativity, and then I just tear that sucker up, because I don't want anything in my journal that's like a lot of, that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just do a dump, like, I'm so frustrated about this, because I'm human. So I still get upset, but you got to want it. You have to truly want it and be intentional. Set your intentions for how you want to live your life. And it doesn't have to be that you look at the entire thing and go, okay, I want it to look like this. Take one step at a time. And let's start with like our mindset. Let's start with the way that we treat ourselves. Okay, so I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to just talk to myself, encourage myself. And it could be, don't forget to encourage yourself today. Write a little note on the mirror like that. Remember to see the positive side in things, and then make it that day where it's a game. You go through and you're like, okay, I'm only looking for positive today,
Mm-hmm.
and not like you're living in a bubble, but we have to be intentional when we want to have that change. So it's not something that's just like easy for me, where I could never have a problem again. I just have to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that for me, that I'm treading and walking in the way that I know works for me. And so I need a combination. I wear everything on my shoulders. So if I'm frustrated, you see it on my face. I'm wearing it on my shoulders and I'm like, ooh, they can tell. Everybody knows
Yeah.
I'm upset. So I had to learn to release it. So that journaling for me is like a dump. It's like me doing a dump, and I do gratitude to keep. Gratitude will always pull us back. being grateful and staying in that gratitude lane, because that helps us to stay in that frequency of the positivity that we need for us to set those milestones, and keep on moving forward where we can eventually get to that place. So find what works for you. That's what I think. You don't have to journal.
I love everything you said, though. I think all of those are great ideas, especially recording your own affirmations, because you're absolutely right. The moment we wake up, we're with someone else, thinking about something else, not thinking about ourselves at all.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not I want to hear my voice first thing in the morning. But I think that's a really great idea, hearing yourself tell you what you need to hear. Because
Mm-hmm.
then I think it'll hit different, because it's great. This other person is saying it. That's their opinion. But what matters the most is how you feel about yourself. And it's how you feel about yourself, how you act on those things, that's going to make the impact that you're seeking for yourself in terms of moving in whatever direction that you want to move in. That was amazing. And so I want to segue a little, just a little, and talk about your podcast. And your podcast is Authentic Talks. And one thing that drew me, one, to the podcast and the title is, in particular, being authentic, right? Just kind of being who you are and just having a conversation, having it be natural, and really just being yourself. And when I think about the positive self-talk and affirmations and being friends with yourself and loving yourself, it's all of those things for you. Every single piece, part of you, your authentic self. So tell us about Authentic Talks. How did Authentic Talks become? How did you decide that it was going to be called Authentic Talks? What kind of authentic talks do you have?
Authentic Talks. I was at work one day and just was birthed with it. And I didn't know that's what it was. I'm driving around. I told my husband, I feel really excited. I don't know why. And then, like, over that weekend, that exciting feeling didn't go away. And I got a pen because, I love to write, so I got that pen and paper, and then I wrote Authentic Talks, had no idea what that was. And then next thing you know, I was like, I'm going to do my YouTube channel and my podcast. And so I did it, didn't know what I was doing. I was terrified because, I had wanted to do it for the longest time, but that judgment thing, what will people think? They're going to be like, you're no Oprah. I'm not trying to be Oprah. I'm just trying to be me. Authentic Talks is basically, it's authentic to the person who is on the show. It opens it up where they can come on, and for me to be able to show up, and where we can they don't have to come with a script, or I don't have to send questions. Let's just talk. You know who you are, you know what you do or what you want to share, and we'll go from there. And so the show is what it is, and I love it. I absolutely enjoy doing the show and meeting all of the amazing people. And the show ranges. It's about growth, love, respect, success. It also, we talk about like mind, body, and spirit. So it's got a little bit of everything. So sometimes people will come on. I have a lot of coaches, authors, therapists, doctors, former NFLers that are now like helping children. And so it's like a self-help / light spiritual podcast is what I would describe it as.
And so I mentioned earlier in the intro that I was a guest on your podcast. I totally loved our conversation.
Like, yeah, I did too.
It really was amazing. And what I felt the best about was being able to just talk about what I loved. And just showing, I've become very excited to just, here's me. here's what I like, here's what I love, here's what I don't like, kind of what you see is what you get. And I'm going to give you everything. And if you can't handle it, that's your business. Um, because it took me a while to get there. And just kind of the idea of just being in any space and being exactly who you are and being unapologetic about that.
Mm-hmm.
In my experience, has literally been the most amazing
It's
thing
freeing.
ever. It
It's
is
so
so
freeing.
freeing.
Yeah.
And I try to be very intentional about being that way all of the time and
Mm-hmm.
not hiding and, you know, not being someone that I think other people want me to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that people
And
pleaser doesn't work out too good.
no, because you don't please there's always something. Someone is always going to have an issue with it. And it's kind of like I've gotten to a point where it's like, okay, that actually has nothing to do with me because I love and accept myself. And I'm well aware of the things that I need to work on, the things that I'm great at. Um, so I love your podcast. I love being a guest on your podcast. But now you also mentioned that you are a coach.
I
Tell
am.
us a little more about that.
Wow. Coaching. I'm in love with the mind. Oh my gosh. So I'm a mindset coach. And I feel like a lot of the things that we go through and experience, when we start digging down, into that, it has a lot to do with our mindset. So I came out with this. I'm launching my actual program. I have a workshop that's coming up like October 2nd and 3rd. I don't know when this is going to air. It could be after, and it's authentic. Okay, so there's something about authentic, okay, that I love because
Mm-hmm.
my coaching program, it's called Authentic You Mindset. And then it's which is AYM, so it's aim beyond the
Mm.
physical.
Wow.
Yeah, so basically, it's a mindset program that's aimed to help women who lack confidence, women who are wanting to find their voice, and have change happen in their life. So what we have to do is work on those limiting beliefs so that we can help them to create the life. I help them create the life that they truly want to live, and there's a lot of awareness in that program,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a total of 12 weeks, that I do with them. And so I'm excited about it. I actually had never really like talked about it much on my podcast or anything like that. I kind of was, for some reason, keeping the two sort of separate in a way. And
The
then
people
now I'm
need to
like,
know. The
yeah,
people need to know because the people need you. They need to, and that's one of the other things why I enjoyed our conversation that we had the first time, and I'm enjoying this conversation because it's kind of like there's a shift. And what we were talking about today is just kind of like in how I think about things, how I think about me. I am literally every morning and every night before I go to bed going to look in the mirror and tell myself I love myself.
I'm gonna hold you to that. Excuse me. I gotta hold you to that because I think it's so important. It starts to develop in a way where you are feeling this in your heart. You feel it. It
Mm-hmm.
really is like something that is a real thing that I think everybody should do. And I think we should teach little guys and girls now, like when they're kids, to start like telling yourself that you love yourself. And then you feel it when you're saying it. And then and I really do love myself to the point now where I drink my water. Before I was like abusing my body, like, oh, I'm going to drink juice, soda. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm talking about I didn't have water for days.
Wow.
Yes, I would go
Yeah.
like 2, 3 days, and then I'm like, I'm super thirsty. All right, let me get some more juice. And next thing you know, I look in the mirror and I'm like, whoa, what happened? I'm pre-diabetic. What are you talking about? And then one of the things I cannot do is a food journal. That is the kind that I just, for the life of me, it just does not work. I've
Mm-hmm.
tried it and I just can't get with it. But I took mental notes like, okay, you're eating pizza. Mine was related to eating bad. like, and then when COVID came, it was all she wrote. Cause, I'm like, I got some new recipes and we're going to douse this with all kind of fat. But, I got my life together a little bit, and that those pounds are coming off, little by little. And, yeah, so I love helping people. I was a corporate trainer for years in the mortgage industry and a supervisor for years. And so that underlining factor, the connecting the dots for me and the milestone, it's like training, like giving people information, helping them to see the bigger picture, and really just wanting to hold people accountable like I held myself accountable.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I love it. It's me walking in my purpose.
And I love that. And I think that is the perfect ending to our amazing conversation today. But before we actually go, I want you to tell folks how they can connect with you. And I'm going to get all the information for your program so that we can put it in the show notes and links and all of that stuff. So tell people where they can keep up with what you are doing.
Well, you guys can find me at authentictalks2.com. The podcast is called Authentic Talks 2. It was Authentic Talks, and then I tried to revamp and all of that good stuff. And then somebody got my name. I'm like, what? How can you do this? So I still have it, Authentic Talks 2. And beyond the physical, I'm going to post all of my information on the Instagram page there. And I have another page that's called like AYM, at AYM Beyond the Physical. And I'll make sure that you definitely have all of the information to put it in the show notes. And then I have a Facebook, and that one's, I still haven't like really gotten all of that stuff like going, because I'm like one of those people that was like coaching and like it's word of mouth, but now I'm trying to take it to the next level,
Yep.
So definitely my website it's almost finished, and it's going to be Authentic You Mindset Academy at thinkific.com or something like that. I don't know.
We'll get the links.
Yeah.
So we will keep you connected with Shante. Shante, thank you so much for joining me today. Again, I love every time that you and I have a chat. And thank you all for watching, if you're watching YouTube, and listening if you are on any of the podcast platforms. And I will catch you next time.
Bye.
Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. It has been great sharing this space with you. I hope that you have taken what you've needed so you can share what you've learned, and that you are on your way to living, learning, and leading with purpose. I encourage you to stay connected with me. Please remember to subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. You can also follow us on Instagram at Leading with Purpose Podcast. And don't forget to visit my website, www.whyjitasmall.com, where you can subscribe to my mailing list. Till next time.